couple of ground rules, everybody. Most we're going to start off with a couple of general questions just to start off, but most of the questions are going to come from you. And so as we go, if everybody will just raise their hand, I'll point at you and you can ask your question. A couple of ground rules, of course, no profanity, of course. I normally don't even say that, but there's been a couple of times when it's been necessary. So no profanity if we can. Also, if you can ask a question that both of these gentlemen can answer, it would be fantastic. It is okay, however, to ask a direct question to one of these gentlemen. If one of them gets a direct question, I'll try to find somebody who has a direct question for the other one, just so we're balancing everything out. Okay, there is going to be a timekeeper. Donna's going to do that for us. We're going to start off with a 3-minute question. Our second question will be 2 minutes, and when it turns it over to you guys, there'll be a 2-minute limit on responses, and so I think that'll be plenty for us. Looking forward to this tonight. So let's start off with kind of a general question, exactly the question I think that you would expect. Brian, could we start with you? Just introduce yourself. Why are you running for office of Cocke County Sheriff, and qualifications? And then we'll have Armando do the same.
Well, I've been a lifelong resident here in Cocke County. I've been in law enforcement pretty much all my life. I was raised in it and everything else. And I guess that covers my qualifications too. 40 years of doing this kind of work. Thanks.
Armando, same question.
Well, good evening. Thank you all so much for coming out to listen to both of us. And hopefully tonight's meeting will give you a better perspective on us to who we are, what we stand for, and what our visions are. I ran in 2010 and I ran for change. I ran to make our community a better place because I began to see, working here for numerous years, that this community needed a strong department and needed leadership that went away from the good old system that was destroying the moral fiber of all families here in our community. I was actually hired by the city of Sevierville, and I turned down the job to stay here, but the stipulation was that I run for office. And thankfully, the people voted me in. I ran again in 2014 because I want to continue the vision, and I'm running this time because I want to continue the vision and continue the successes that we have. We've lowered the crime rate by 50% when it comes to burglaries, thefts, violent crimes, way down. I mean, these are all facts according to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. Why am I running again? It's to serve these people. And I'm running again in order to make it a better community for your children and your future generations and our children. I could easily go anywhere else and work, but I want to make Cocke County a better place for you all and make it a better place for you all. I'm married. I have 4 children. I've been married for 21 years. I only have one wife. My wonderful wife, Jackie's here. Thankfully, we've done good raising our kids. I'm not a perfect person. I do not have all the answers, but I am a sincere person, and I have made a true difference based on leadership that has brought about unity with our department, based on learning to identify people's talents and motivating them. And so I'm running to help economic growth in our community. If we have a high crime rate and our community is plagued with drugs and violence, we're not going to attract industry and we're not going to attract tourism. So you need a leader that's going to step up and do the job and get it done. And that's what I've been doing, and I'll continue to do that. And so thank you for this opportunity to be here tonight. As I said, I love what I do. I love this calling. It's a profession to me. And as far as qualifications going, again, I have my associate's degree. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Just a quick question. If somebody wants to research the data on their own, is that online, TBI? Is that the place to go online to look for that?
Yes, if you want to look at the actual crime stats, what you have to do is you have to be careful how you look at it. It has 3 sections. Cocke County, which is a combined Newport Police Department and Sheriff's Department, that gives you the entire community. But if you look at county only, you look at Cocke County Sheriff's Office. If you want to see Newport crime rates only, you look at Newport PD. So you can get those two confused if you don't look correctly.
Brian, anything to add? Okay. Let's reverse our order. Armando, would you start off this time? Quick 2-minute assessment of where we are in law enforcement in Cocke County.
I think our department is better shape than it's ever been. We're understaffed. We've had studies that have been done by the University of Tennessee UTC task that clearly shows that the jail is understaffed by 20 people. We're understaffed in the department. My biggest thing is I have worked to get our officers raises. If you cannot retain and keep highly qualified people that have experience, then you're not gonna be able to get things done in your community. Every time you train someone and they leave to go to another agency, that's a bad thing for your community. You're losing that experience. But the good thing is we got great officers who are committed that work here. I created the first narcotic division here, and they're phenomenal. I have an officer assigned to the DEA task force. It's phenomenal. And by doing that, we're reaping financial benefits from that, plus the resources from the DEA. That officer also comes back and works in our own community for us. So we have one of the best narcotic divisions in the state of Tennessee. We have some of the best patrolmen in the state of Tennessee. But we have very committed corrections officers in the state of Tennessee that we struggle because of the pay. And that's a true thing. But we're doing great.
Thank you. Brian, 2 minutes, your assessment of where we stand in law enforcement in Cocke County.
Okay. Local law enforcement seems to have lost touch with people.
Volume, yeah.
Okay. Local law enforcement seems to have lost touch with the people. There needs to be more patrolling in the communities rather than state highways. It seems like they've made it into more statistics and numbers and tickets. And I believe there needs to be more community policing within the communities. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, it's time for you guys to take over. Can I see a show of hands and we'll start getting questions for these folks? Yes, sir. Question for both or for one?
Well, it'll be for one because Brian's not sheriff.
Got it.
My name is Mike Baxter. I hear a lot about budgets. Are you over any budgets? And I know this question is for you. And if so, just tell us a little bit about it.
We have 7 budgets that we deal with. I give a lot of praise to my chief, Derek Woods, who works with me on our budgets. We meticulously track all funds, all spending. Because of the work that we've done budget-wise, we have put $4.3 million into the general fund. Because of the work in tracking our budgets, we've been under budget every fiscal budget. We have had a few increases as a result of inflation. When fuel goes up, food goes up, other things go up, you have increases. When medical issues go up, you have increases. So when you have those increases, you work to maintain and be under budget as much as you can. Simply because of the fact of the money we've put into the general fund, we have saved taxpayers, I believe I wrote it down, 67 cents on the tax dollar. If we didn't put all that money into the general fund, your taxes would have went up 67 cents. But that's what we've been doing. And so we're doing a great job when it comes to saving taxpayers money through the asset forfeiture program that we have. That's $500,000 that taxpayers didn't have to pay for.
Brian, would you like to make any comments on budget, anything like that?
In spite of all my years, the budget was never anything that related to my lab. I've done corrections, communications, investigation, patrol, some administrative patrol positions. When we get into money, I can't answer any of that.
Thank you, sir. Next, did I see your hand, sir? Yeah.
I have a question, a comment first. A comment to our current sheriff. I want to thank him for a couple of things. You've actually engaged in concealed training for citizens. We appreciate you doing that. We appreciate you getting to the school and church safety issues and putting on courses for that. And active shooter training for your officers. We realize that those are things that a lot of sheriffs can say don't have time to do that. But we appreciate you taking the time to do that. It's a serious issue, and it's been pointed out in different forums. This jail is a liability, a critical liability for the community. What's the shortest course and the most efficient course to return certification to our jail here in Cocke County?
It's a really good question a lot of people ask. The state of Tennessee, first off, the old jail has been decertified close to 15 to 18 years. I don't know exactly. The reason being the fiscal layout. The jail annex was built in 1993 as a temporary fix in order for the county to address building a jail. Okay? Since that time, it was built as a workhouse. It was never built as an actual lockdown facility. You have nothing but dormitory facilities over there. You have no way to segregate problematic inmates. Segregation is a major critical issue with the state of Tennessee, and it's also a huge liability for Cocke County. To be quite honest with you, unless the county is able to go back and show the state of Tennessee that they are making measurable progress by either purchasing land, putting funds in place, actually breaking ground and looking to break ground within the next 5 years, they will not recertify this jail. I told the county commission last year, your jail will be decertified next year because of lack of measurable progress. And measurable progress to the state of Tennessee is hiring architects, purchasing land, putting financial plans in place. And what the state of Tennessee looked at, they looked at the serious staff shortages. Is that a minute left? That they looked at the serious staff shortages. They looked at the fact that our inmate population, when I took over in 2010, was 87 people a day average. For the past 2 years, we've averaged 167 to 210 people a day in our facility. Right now, we have 115 beds in our jail. And right now, as of yesterday, I believe we had 167 inmates in our jail. They're caped up everywhere. And, I agree they should live in luxury, but they should not live like they're in a facility that's in the Bahamas or in New Mexico or wherever else, where they're just laying all over the floors and have nowhere to go and nothing to do. I've got 18, 19 women that are sleeping in a 12 by 12 cell with nothing more. They're everywhere.
Sure, your jail looks like a 19th century steamboat vessel.
Exactly. So I don't care what any sheriff does. It's the certification of the jail is not the fault of me. That's why I've been meticulously reporting, is to keep the liability off of me.
Brian, what's your thinking on that, on the situation of the jail?
Well, I'll agree with him on the one upstairs. It was built in 1930. There's not much you can ever be able to do with that. There may be issues over here at the annex jail that could be corrected. And it was my understanding it was maintenance issues, and some of it was nothing more than documentation to be fixed pretty easy. That's the question.
Do either of y'all have an idea how to pay for these things? How would you pay for what maybe I've heard $20 million in cost to
Okay.
bring us up to speed?
The only way that a new jail or justice center could be built is either a huge tax increase or a wheel tax. And that comes from the financial advisor from the county.
We can't do it through city growth, by saying our city being more attractive to businesses and individuals that would like to move here, and that tax base enhanced, would that help?
Well, that would probably help, but you're still looking at something pretty good ways down the road. People are probably not gonna want us to run and build, we're building a new jail in Newport, let's run our industry up here.
Let me,
Can I address that?
well, yeah, but let me pull one thing out, because I hear both of you saying the same thing, is that the financial end of it, other than the growth, of course, that always adds, is that money has to come from another governmental agency, which would be CLV, that type of thing. Am I hearing that correctly? From both of you?
You're talking about for funding. I can address
Funding.
I mean,
Hit that for a while.
sure, I sure will. There are no grants, there are no federal grants, there are no type of grants whatsoever to build a jail in a county. We've already researched it, we studied it to death, okay? Our county cannot afford a $30 million jail right now. It's a burden on taxpayers, I know this. Even if we decided to build a jail as a community, it would take 5 to 8 years to break ground. What should have been done 5 years ago when the county was put under a plan of action, they should have put a financial plan in place, and I'm talking about the county commission, which began saving revenue to address a catastrophic issue. Now, if you go back and if you look at the board bills that we collect from the state of Tennessee, we make money off of holding state inmates. In one fiscal year, we brought in over $800,000 into our county, into the general fund. If you build smart, if you build correctly, and if you build in stages, the county can take, number one, not have a significant tax base and let it all fall onto the shoulders of the taxpayers. They don't need that. It's not right. Secondly, if you're generating $800,000 a year, that's a lot of money that you can put into the general fund to make that payment that you need. And if they build correctly and do it right, then they need to look at housing federal inmates. If you house federal inmates, you're going to make even more money. And then if they actually build correctly and take this old annex and turn it into a juvenile justice center, you make $100-something a day housing juveniles.
What you're saying is the system could pay for itself.
Exactly. The system can pay for itself if you do it the right way. But the thing is you've got to take steps. You can't just turn a blind eye that has been done. You can't put the burden on the taxpayer or a will tax. That's not going to fix your problem. You need to draw in industry. You need to draw in jobs. You need to draw in tourism. And in order to do that, you have a low crime rate. And in order to do that, you have to be able to keep people off of drugs so we have a workforce here that can go to work. If everybody can't pass a drug test, industries are not going to come here if everyone's on drugs. So you need a strong department because that affects your community economically.
Brian, would you like to add to that? Anything you'd like to add?
I'm good.
What I'm hearing from both of you is that additional tax revenue would be great by growth, bring things in, that type of thing. However, one of you's kind of seeing it as the best and most expedient way would be some sort of taxation because it's our jail. Armando, your point is that basically we could do it because we make more money in bringing money in than we actually spend anyway, but it gets used for something else. Did I hear that right? It gets siphoned off to other areas?
We don't bring in more than what we actually spend, but we do bring in a lot that if used correctly,
Okay.
it can help fund the jail.
Thank you.
You don't need to build a jail based on taxes only. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Okay.
You need to build a jail based on a cumulative effort of managing your money, your county money, very effectively.
Got it. Next question? Yes, sir.
My name is Doug Brooks. I have a question for you, Mr. Murr.
Yes.
You're on record as saying that the sheriff's department needs changes. Can you address what changes you would make and how you would budget that?
Well, I would have to try and stay within my budget the best way I can answer that. But like I said, some of the changes would be more community policing and trying to get along with the public better, instead of trying to handle like the statistics.
I mean, can you elaborate on that? What does community policing mean? Driving through neighborhoods or?
There you go. More police seen throughout your community to help curtail thefts, burglaries. Which most of that runs hand in hand with drug dealing. So you're gonna have to do a pretty aggressive drug enforcement program. Make sure that money is spent like it should be on drug enforcement.
Ron, thanks. Armando, would you like to put something on the same question?
Well, a couple of things that Mr. Mertz said, and I'm just going to take notes of myself saying in place. You need more community policing. It's already here. I started a COPS program where we have retired police officers that go in and we provide a vehicle for them to conduct these community patrols. They do walkthroughs in schools. They are actually going and doing educational work. I have a retired FBI agent right now that just started a month ago that's working with our criminal investigation division that's volunteering time and providing free labor with our CID to investigate crimes. What better people to have than qualified people? I have not yet found people that's willing to work in the jail for free. They just will not do it. I mean, if I could get them, I would. He talks about numbers. Numbers are important. If you want grants, if you want to get these federal grants, you better watch and track your numbers extensively. And if you know anything about grants, you're gonna track numbers effectively. Plus, numbers are important because it shows where your crime is. You don't want to put all your resources in an area where there's no crime. Well, if there's no crime in that community, how do you know unless you keep up with the numbers of thefts and burglaries? So numbers are important. The things that we do is important. We have educational programs that we do on a constant basis. We're teaching our children. We're educating our children. We're using drug fund money to provide programs in our schools. We're ourselves as an administration is going out and teaching programs because we're short-staffed. We're so short-staffed, it's unbelievable. The city of Newport's 6 square miles, 5 officers a shift. The county, 360 square miles, 4 to 5 officers a shift. That's how understaffed we are. So, you want to see more visibility, then you need to the only way to do it is to hire more officers. You want your kids to be safe? I want them to be safe. I want officers in one of our schools. And so, it comes down to you're going to pay for what you get, pure and simple. And so in saying that, the numbers are important. And the fact is, crime, if you're going to solve crime, you need to track and know exactly where it's at, what's going on, and who's involved.
Ron, rebuttal at all?
Yeah.
You're good? Guys, you're good? Next question, please. I saw another hand back here somewhere. Yes, Charlotte.
Armando, I'm gonna ask, since we are in command of the budget, why do we not fully staff the jail? And also, I want to ask you, how many days a week do you walk through the jail? And Bob, as the administrator of the jail, I want to ask you how many days a week you walk through the jails, please.
Basically, we are the administrator. Why are we not fully staffed? Okay, 1043 or 1048 an hour is the starting pay for a jailer who works with, on average, 168 inmates a day that spit upon, food thrown on them, assaulted with toilet lids, who act out in deviant ways and tear stuff up. You can go to Chick-fil-A and start out at $12 an hour. You can go to Lowe's, start out at $10 an hour. You pay for what you get. Right now, we're 2 people short in the jail. Why? Because, number one, some people can't pass a drug test. Number two, unfortunately, some people just don't want to work. And number three, hiring a jailer is an extensive process. You got to train them, you got to educate them. They have to learn 460 standards according to the state of Tennessee. They have to be well versed and knowledgeable what they're doing to keep the liability off the taxpayers. And then we have an entire hiring process. You train someone and send them to jailer school, and then and finally get all their training done within a 3 months time period, and then they quit. You start right back over again, and then you have people that don't know what they're doing. And one of the things that Mr. Murray said was that there was findings in the jail that certain paperwork wasn't being done and certain things weren't being done. That is true, but it's been like that for the past 10 years. Why? They don't understand the 460 policies when they've only worked in the jail for 1 month. They don't have the knowledge and experience to remember all of the standards that's required by the state of Tennessee. So if you can't retain experience, you can't get the job. In the state of Tennessee, in their report, they even said that based on their findings, that it's virtually impossible to meet all standards because of the fact they're short staffed and because of the fact they can't retain experienced people. And how often am I there? Usually about 3 days a week. Not as much as Derek. Derek's there 5 days a week. Bob's there every day. We were there already. We know what's going on. We have shift meetings constantly. We have staff meetings. We have staff training. We're there all the time. That's how I know so much about the jail. That's why I know what's going on, because I'm not only working in the streets and in the community, I'm not only working here, I'm working in the facility.
Brian, your thoughts on recruiting more for the jail? Solving the problem of staffing?
Staffing, usually, no, you don't get a lot of people with any age or experience on them when they come to work there. It's usually the younger generation just starting out. That would be an issue.
Okay. Anything you know that would enhance that, make it better?
Probably some better pay.
Better pay, okay. I'm hearing some agreement on that then.
And that reinforces what I just said.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you guys are right on. Okay, next question. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Tara Stewart, and I work downstairs at the county clerk's office, and I just want to ask either of you, what qualifies you to be the sheriff?
Brian, let's start off.
Well, I graduated Walmer State in the criminal justice degree. I went to the Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academy. I have been to so many different specialized schools, 20 or 30 of them, and plus I've done quite a few years.
Armando.
21 years on the job, started here as a jailer, worked myself from a jailer as a reserve officer into the jail, worked in the jail. From the jail, I was hired as a school resource officer. From school resource officer, I advanced up into, I left for a little while ago to work for the city of Newport. Didn't quite like that, so I come back, worked for juvenile court for a year, had a better understanding of workings of the court. From juvenile court, I came back to the sheriff's office and worked here. I was promoted to sergeant. From sergeant, I ran and won in 2010, so I have 8 years already of leadership experience. I've been to several UTC classes of training that helps me become a better administrator. I have my associate's degree from Walter State, where I've done that, and I have, I think, over 500 hours of training in various areas of law enforcement, just all different fields. I'm a firearms instructor. I teach as an adjunct instructor at Walter State a couple of times a year, so I actually have the qualifications to teach cadets. And if a 2-year university puts pressure on you to educate people, it makes you obviously have an understanding of knowing what needs to be done. Love what I do, and I'll tell you what helps me is, the biggest thing that helps me is I've learned to be a leader that leads beside people, not above people. I work with my people next to them, and the fact that I hold myself accountable to the same standards that I hold my people accountable. And that's what it's about. This job requires accountability. It requires treating people the same. One of the things that I do not do is I don't show favoritism to different people in the community. I lost a supporter because of the fact we put their son in jail and he lost his job because they called me at 2 a.m. But I'm not going to treat this group of people one way and this group of people another way. You commit the crime, you made your bed, you're going to lay in it. So that's why you should elect me. You want people to be treated fair in your community? You need to put me in. If you want the good old system, then you need to vote me out.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Lori. I have a question for Brian. A few minutes ago, you said that you needed to put older people working in the jail than the younger people. Isn't that like job discrimination?
I think what, maybe misunderstood what it said, but I thought, you're not gonna find older people to come to work in the jail because of the pay. That's why the younger people. Older people don't, probably already have jobs that pay better, and it's not gonna be much attractive to come, that's what I was, the point I was trying to get across. Certainly, I'm not trying to discriminate against anybody for age. Thank you.
Armando, would you like to address that also?
I actually have really good success with both older people and younger people. Younger people are starting out. They are more difficult to work with because they are more susceptible to fall into getting persuaded by inmates to sneak in contraband to make $50 or $100 a drop. Younger people are more difficult to retain because they are, they're starting out and it's easy for them to change positions and go somewhere else. If you take someone who's in their mid-30s on up, they do make a little bit better employees. But the thing is, they got a lot more life experience, and that's really important to have, is that life experience. So, but the good thing is we have a screening process. Mr. Hogan does a great job. When I put him as jail administrator, he made a lot of changes, and we have a pretty good hiring process. And he actually convinces you why you should, hey, why do you want this job? And here's all the truths about it. And he gives them a questionnaire that basically says, can you handle this? Can you handle this? Goes through this multiple list and talks to them about, he basically tries to talk them out of a job. And the reason we do that is because it helps them to realize this is not fun and games. Your jail is a significant liability for this community. It is the biggest liability that the community has, because these inmates will victimize people, they'll do everything. Then they'll go in here and act like a bunch of little teenage kids in a group of 25 to 30 people in a cell. They'll beat up people, and then they assault these people, and then next thing you know, you have an inmate that we're required to treat medically going to the ER that's costing taxpayers $50,000. And if we don't treat them, guess what? They sue the county for $50 million. So that goes back to segregation. I can't control these people here if I move them from one pot of 25 to another pot of 25. You need to give me the ability to put them in lockdown where they can sit in solitary confinement for about 30 days and have a reality check of how to behave. And so, but in the meantime, we've got to have good qualified people, and we've got some great ones. I got some young people right here do a phenomenal job. Underpaid, work in a stressful environment, but they are extremely committed. And the reason they're committed is because their leadership cares about them. And I will fight for them, and I will tell the truth about what they need, because I'm not worried about, just everyone liking me and saying yes to everything. No, I'm going to give the people the truth.
Time. Next, yes, sir. Brian, would you like to start?
Well, it mostly be awareness upon the church attendees. And we have to pay attention to our surroundings. Would be about the best advice I could give you. Strangers coming into your jail or church with a gun, of course you're gonna alert you pretty quick to take action. So, main thing would just be pay attention to your surroundings while in church.
Armando, same question.
What we've been doing, and since, proactive policing is what this community needs, not just reactive. So we've had things happen in other communities. You learn from other communities. We actually go into the churches. We actually educate the members of the churches to develop and build safety teams within our congregation. We teach them to take these safety teams and to learn to be aware and to be alert. We teach them how to defend themselves. We teach them how to react in a critical situation. And we teach them how to always have someone that's a greeter at the back door, engaging the people that come through. We're teaching them currently to put cameras on there outside, and at their sound system, at their soundboard, you have the person that runs the sound equipment to monitor and watch what's going on outside. We teach them that prayer time is observation time. We teach them that basically you don't need to You don't need to take and be bowing your head in prayer and not paying any attention whatsoever. We teach them not to be complacent because complacency kills. And so we're already doing several programs. And then after we teach the class, the administration teaching the class, then we do a follow-up if the church requests us. We go to them. We actually look at their fiscal layout. We give recommendations on what they can do. We teach them basically what are some good things that they can do cost efficiently. And we basically reinforce of some ideas and thinkings that they could they do. And I've actually had great successes with that. And we're also doing the same thing in a certain aspect in the school system. So we're ahead of the game.
Yes, ma'am.
My name's Katrina Knight. I have a question for Mr. Mayor, and Sheriff Montez is more than welcome to answer it, but I've heard it numerous times how you feel about your community, no matter who they are, what they are, where they come from, what status they are. I'd like to know how you feel about your community here. You said you was born and raised here, you lived here all your life. So I want to know how you feel pertaining to not picking out certain ones, everyone treated the same. I want to know how you feel.
I feel everyone should be treated the same. I've always tried to do that. I just can't be helped, and they won't let you.
Thank you for the question. I love my community. I grew up here and went to high school here. When I was 17 years old, I spent about a year without a family because just things happen in life. But I had a family that took me in as their own, and they treated me like that I was their own, and they helped raise me. And then, of course, things got better. And basically, I went through a really hard period for a couple of years. I grew up with the alcoholic stepfather. I grew up with, my father not being a father. I grew up with all these different issues that people go through. And so my life experience has taught me how to overcome these things. So loving your community means that you invest in your community. Loving your community means you take time to pray with people. You take time to go and see them in their time of need. You take time to go and see how you can help. Had an officer today text me and said, hey, I was teaching in one of the classes. And he said, this little girl said that she wasn't going to get a birthday cake for her birthday because her daddy spent all the money. So we're going to throw this little girl a surprise party at school this Thursday. We do that stuff. Why? Because it makes a difference in a child's life. Now, I care about the people of this community, and I love the people of this community, and I've not abandoned this community because I'm standing that strong fight to make life better for you all, and also for me. And so in loving your community means you don't tolerate nonsense, and you don't tolerate complacency, and you don't tolerate corruption. I've had to make some tough administrative decisions that were not fun, but that's what an administrator does. You set the standard, you set the policy, you follow it, and you hold everyone to it, including yourself, because this department is a reflection of your community. And people take notice. When you have a Knox County sheriff and you have the sheriffs from all over the state of Tennessee endorse you and talk good about your community, you're doing something right. So, and it's not just me. Leadership starts at the top, it trickles down to everyone else, and we're doing all these good things as a group, not just me.
Brian, did you want to add anything?
No.
Okay. Next question, and you first, and I'll come right back to you. All right.
I have a question. My name is Tessa Woods. If elected sheriff, what is going to be the top 3 things that you're going to work on? And then how do you plan to do those top 3 things by implementing them in our community, Mr. Mayor?
You've been leaving off a lot. You wanna take the second position for a second? Brian, Armando, you wanna lead on that one? And we'll let Brian come in after that.
Number one is I'm going to try to continue to educate the county commission and give them solid facts to teach them how to deal with this jail issue, because this jail issue is the community's issue. It's not just the sheriff's department issue. And they need guidance, and they need someone that has understanding to teach them what's needed for this community. People want criminals off the streets, you got to have somewhere to put them. People want to be safe at home, you got to have somewhere to put them. And so that's one of the priorities, is to continue to educate them. The next thing is my goal is to drive the crime rate down even more. We've already cut it by 50%. If you go from 460-some burglaries a year down to 206, you've done something. You've done a lot. So I want to cut the crime rate in half, even more. I want our community to be a community that continues to be very safe. Last year, no homicides. Last year, no home invasions. Last year, past couple of years, we've had no violent crime. We've had 3 or 4 years under my watch that we didn't have murders and things of that nature. You live in a good community, so I want to continue to build off of having a safe community. And then finally, I want to work on trying to, come up with creative ways that the county commission can generate revenue for their community through your jail and your sheriff's office. And, and by doing that, we want to continue to do what we're doing when it comes to ministry programs in the jail, when it comes to AA in the jail, when it comes to Helen Ross McNabb providing counseling in the jail, when it comes to providing drug rehabilitation in the jail, when it comes to working with churches in the jail. We're doing all these things already. But you have people that are just telling untruths. We've had 4 years of Reformers Unanimous in the jail that we fully funded through the drug fund. So we want to continue to do that and change lives. I want to rehabilitate inmates so bad, but you can't rehabilitate someone when they go to a 2-hour class, and then they're put back in a cell and they're picked on, their demeanor, they're made fun of, and their Bibles are ripped up because of the fact they're in there with a bunch of thugs and I can't segregate them. You need to be able to segregate people that are salvageable from people that are chronic career criminals. You want your families changed? You got to provide the resources and tools to do it.
Yes, rehab programs need to be initiated in the jail, even if you have to transport them to another location. Crime rate, I believe I was very instrumental in helping lowering that. And school safety issue, I believe they grants become available for that. I think the governor's turned loose some money to help with surveillance stuff. There's a COPS grant, I believe it's fixing to become available pretty soon. So that's where some of the money will come from for that. Thank you.
And right back to you, sir.
I'd like those candidates to address what their strategy will be going forward to address the opioid crisis that's affecting the county.
Yes, the opioid, it's headed this way, unfortunately.
It's already here.
Yeah, you're right, it is. But you're fixing to see more. And, it's just gonna take an extremely aggressive drug user to fight that. You just can't put up a roadblock there on the interstate and stop it all. It's gonna come through. You're just gonna have to implement extremely aggressive drug use.
Excellent question. 2010 is when the opioid epidemic in Cocke County peaked. We had a lot of overdoses. It takes a collaborative effort of education, enforcement. It takes legislation, holding doctors accountable for prescribing these things. That is one of the key factors. What you have to be able to do is you also have to be able to take and work with surrounding agencies such as the DEA, the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, all of which we do already. That's why it's so important for us to have a task force officer with the DEA like we do, because we're not hitting the petty dealers. We're hitting loads and loads of dope. My officers just the other day seized kilos and kilos of methamphetamine in your community that you don't even know about. My officers and I raided a place in Del Rio. And I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you, one of the things that's going to help this community most is having a strict circuit court judge that's going to impose and lay down harsh punishments for these drug dealers that are habitual offenders that are destroying their families and lives. We need the court system to back us up and send them to the penitentiary. That's what we need. So my thing is, we've took $27 million worth of illegal narcotics off the streets already. I'm getting ready to indict several people very soon once again, just like we do on a regular basis. But enforcement's not enough. You got to have good legislation. We got to be able to go to Nashville and educate our legislators on the needs. That's why I'm against the marijuana, the legalization of marijuana. Here, 21 years, everything I've dealt with pill-wise, the thing right next to it is pot. We don't need something else. It's already here. We don't need to legalize something that's going to be available like a cigarette that our kids can get a hold of. Because when you have that legalization, the next thing you have is the knowledge and understanding from your kids says, oh, it's okay to do that. And then when they smoke pot for a year or so and it doesn't really affect them, I'm going to try the pills because pot didn't kill me. You got to think about those things. Education, enforcement, working with the community together, and being tough on crime and having a judge and legislation. That's the key. It takes a collaborative effort.
Next question, folks. Anyone? Okay. Let me throw one out right quick. You have both touched on this, and it's just kind of a hot topic right now that everybody is talking about. As you look at school security, what are your thoughts as professionals on what it would take to make our schools safe? What does it take to make our schools safe? Would you start? Well, Armando, would you start?
Sure.
We'll go to Brian.
It takes education. We're already doing that. We're educating. We're actually going in and instructing teachers and teaching teachers how to turn their classroom into a last-ditch fortress. The City of Houston come up with a video called Run, Hide, Fight. We teach that concept in our schools, where we're basically teaching them not to lay there and be a victim, but to fight. The other thing is the school system, and it costs money. They need to put protective barriers across their windows to keep an active shooter from shooting out this glass, and all they have to do is one round through the window, and then they can get into the school. So they need 3M makes a film that you can put on all of your windows that's going to give that perpetrator, it'll take about 15 minutes just to get through the glass. We need to do that. I firmly believe in putting officers in every school. When you have an active shooter, if you have an officer well trained, if that officer engages that active shooter, he's going to neutralize the threat. We just did training this past week teaching our officers how to engage a solo engagement with an active shooter. So we're already doing that. And the thing is, and it goes back to cost. Okay? It may cost some money to put officers in your school. But you have one active shooting, is those 5 kids worth 10 cents on your taxes? Heck yeah. I would do it any day. Will I run into a school and give my life for children? Yes, I will. And I train to do it. And I train with my officers. I don't just sit back and listen and give orders. I prepare myself to be mentally strong to walk in and engage that shooter and take out that shooter. That's what needs to be done. I don't just sit in an office as some people might think. I train with my men and I lead by example. If they're going to risk their lives, I'm going to risk mine. And that's what you need in this community.
An additional thing, maybe put like key cards at all the entrances to where anybody can come in and they gotta have a card to enter the school. You're gonna have a huge problem at the beginning of school and after school when all the kids are outside. You've got to have an armed guy there to look after them. I think I saw maybe in today's paper where they're contemplating getting an armed security guard at least for night. Great idea, I'll go along with that. I don't think nobody will issue or make a complaint about the cost to make sure their kids are okay in school.
Can I follow up with one thing?
Follow up, and then we'll come back to Brian.
Sure. One thing that we already do because we don't have the funds to do it, we can't afford to put an officer in the school all the time, so we manage our budget extremely well thanks to Chief Woods. We have officers in every one of our schools except for I think 2 or 3 right now. And the 2 or 3 that we don't have, the school system is putting officers in there, our security officers. And we can only do that for a few months at a time. And what we do is we manage our budget extremely well, and then when we get toward the end of the fiscal year, then we take those funds that have been unspent or that overtime, and then we pay our officers to come in and work overtime and go and work in those schools. So that's where some of that money is. It could be money that I could just be saving, and I could put back in the general fund. But you know what? I want to protect our kids. So for the past 2.5 months, we've already put more officers in the school. But I want to do it every day. I want to do it all the time. And so that's what we need.
Follow up, Brian. Anything?
Agreed, they need to be one there every day, not just part-time.
Next question. Guys, I want to thank you for coming tonight. I want you to give both of these gentlemen, stand up guys, give them a hand. Candidate for Cocke County Sheriff. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for coming and talking to these people tonight. Guys, just a quick announcement. We will not be having a Republican Party meeting on May the 1st. Of course, that's Election Day. Early voting starts tomorrow.